Thank you for listening to the Tattness Podcast on the Tattness Co network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A Mercedes kind of sentiment, luxury and trust in me to honor the free we all should be. It sees my sundial burst into yin and yang, right and left, me and you.
What is up, you guys? Welcome to the Tattness Podcast. Thanks again for checking us out. And this show is going to be interesting. This is going to be a two-parter. I had the privilege of talking to the good brothers over on Raw and Order off the Tattness Podcast network, and we got to talking so much. They're such good dudes, man. They were great guys. We had so much fun talking that, as it turned out, we lost track of time and ended up talking, shooting the shit for almost the better part of 3 hours, man. So I had to cut this down into a two-parter, and we talk about the Elimination Chamber. We make predictions and call out some things that we think are going to happen. Were we right? I don't know. Guess you'll have to find out. Check it out, man. How's it going, man?
What's up? What's up?
Oh, that's cracking. Thanks for, sorry about that. Fucking appreciate y'all being so patient, though.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good. There's I don't know, probably a dozen times we've had to postpone recording the podcast due to one of us being late or, I don't know, falling asleep or something.
Never happened, bro. Never happened.
There's some denial.
A little bit of denial here.
Yeah, I was thinking about the topics. I was like, fuck, there's so many that we could get into. You know
well,
what I'm saying?
I've got a couple things that I want to bring up. Like, one of the things, I've got a couple crimes that I feel we can talk about. I know you had one to talk about. And then towards the end, I figured I'd do a few little pre-crime predictions for Elimination Chamber. Not like match predictions, but things that I think are probably going to happen.
Yeah, let's get into that, because I feel like that's pretty much probably the most relevant thing right now, since it's in, a couple hours?
Yeah, just a few hours.
Yeah, so let's go there then. Fucking, I've got a few things on that myself.
Well, he's like a masculine voice, Justin.
I don't know. Have you listened to any of our podcasts when we've had Justin on?
I think I have, yeah.
Justin is from Montreal.
Oh, really?
So he's Canadian as well, but he's only 1 hour time difference from us, not 2 hours. So.
Yeah, he's just a few hours away from me then.
Yeah.
Jeez. You're going to be up till like 2 o'clock in the morning fucking watching Elimination Chamber, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, no doubt. No, I'm always up anyway, so it's all good. What do you got on that whole thing?
The Elimination Chamber?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a good show. I don't think it's going to be like the best show.
No. Yeah. Exactly.
There's a lot of questionable matches and a lot of things that I'm not 100% sure where they're going with. I mean, it kind of feels like just a filler pay-per-view. Like, hey, we're going to WrestleMania. Oh crap, we've got Elimination Chamber.
I think a lot of that stems from the and again, I know there's people who love the Saudi shows, and I'm glad the money's there for pro wrestling to expand, but cramming these Saudi shows in the middle of a 3-week gap, anyways. And you have no development for anything. Like, there's no fucking storylines developed tonight. Except for Baszler's the only storyline that's really developed.
And I'm glad you said that, because to me, that's the most predictable outcome for that whole match. And we know who's going to win that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I guess there is a storyline that's a little bit developed with AJ and Alistair. But beyond that, there's just... And you don't have a world title being defended here at all. Either of the big titles, neither of them are being defended. Like, what, I mean, this is what Saudi Arabia does. If you just pigeonhole it into, right there, I think we can get it in there. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And I mean, that's a lot of the thing. You just had Brock Lesnar versus Ricochet. Right? What do you do? Have it again? Rematch, Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, and you know what the difference will be? Ricochet might get 1 or 2 offensive moves in this time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd hold my breath on that, but
that'd be the only thing that makes it unique compared to the other. It's still not watchable.
Yeah.
You know, or what are you going to do, Goldberg and the Fiend again domestically, where people are really fucking pissed off? Like, people are just kind of pissed off, and they're like, "Listen, the Prince of Saudi Arabia is a Goldberg fan. Okay, fine."
That's not even the reason why.
No, it's because the Fiend versus Roman was going to ruin Roman worse than Vince already has.
Exactly. And
no one was going to cheer Roman beating the Fiend.
Period. No, not at all. People would be infuriated. There'd be a riot.
But Roman beating a part-timer Goldberg, people will pop. There will be a big pop for that.
Absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
And, I think they're milking this whole spear versus spear shit, like, fucking till the wheels fall off. And, so I get it, but, I think that, as you were saying, the Alistair and AJ thing is kind of in its own respect filler, because we know what's coming at Mania for AJ, so.
Yeah, AJ's made that pretty obvious.
Right, so there's no real build to anything. It's just kind of, in the time being, in the meantime, while a part-timer sits at home, I'll take care of someone else for a little bit.
And how many times have we seen Andrade versus Humberto Carrillo?
More than I care to admit, because that bores me to fucking tears, man.
See, and I like them, but once again, we've seen it 2.5 dozen times in the last month.
Yeah, after the first couple times, it's now when I go take a leak. You know what I mean? And that's about as long as the match lasts.
And then Braun Strowman versus Shinsuke, Cesaro, and Sami Zayn. That just feels, to me, 100% like a match set to make Braun Strowman look like a monster because he beat 3 people.
Exactly. And if it goes the other way, then it's just burying him further.
Uh-huh.
And am I the only one that feels he's misused?
Oh, he's grossly misused. The thing is, he's been misused for the last 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
We should have had him be the one who took the title off Brock.
Yeah, that really
I agree.
He was red hot at the time. People were behind him. He had to get these hands.
The credibility is there.
And the credibility is this big monster, and people loved him, right? So you have him be the one who takes the belt off of Brock. Then you have him go on a run. Maybe then you can start doing a heel turn with him where the ego of being the champion starts to come out and all of that stuff. And then you can have Roman take the belt off him in a match that we hadn't seen a billion times already.
Right. Because,
I don't think it was Roman, though. Seth, and that's equally as overcoming for Seth. In fact, Seth has already 2 wins over Brock. Why give him the third?
Right.
Having going to win over Braun. Now Seth literally is this beast slayer or monster slayer now. Another monster. Yeah. And you built another character without hurting either of the first 2 of the 2 you had built up so well in the late 90s and early 2000s. No, that's what they're missing.
To me it's a win-win because Strowman as a heel was great.
Mm-hmm.
And Strowman against Reigns was fucking awesome in my view.
Mm-hmm.
That shit got violent. That shit got, pretty crazy. And it was like, finally, we're going in a good direction.
Minus the Hell in the Cell that was debatable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Well,
we're smart enough to know that not every person on your roster can break steel and get in. Not every big dude rip doors off. Sorry, Kane. We know it was rigged when Brock did it. Like, yeah.
But I mean, that's the deal. We've talked on our show before about how the wrestling community as a whole likes to dog Roman Reigns, and a lot of it's because we felt like he'd been kind of shoved down our throats. But if you've been to a live WWE event in the last 2 years, the pop for Roman Reigns is real.
Right.
When he comes out, when that dun-dun hits, the crowd erupts. So,
right.
Yeah, he legitimately is a star. We just like to push back against him a lot. But having him beat a part-timer Brock Lesnar again isn't going to get the pop that you want. Having him beat, Rollins for the title would get a little bit of a pop, but at the time, people were more behind Rollins anyways. So I really think that, Braun versus Roman would have been a way better way to go if you wanted him to win the belt. Or, if you wanted it to be Rollins, Braun versus Rollins is still, it's a monster versus a normal man sort of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody always loves that kind of concept because it's always going to be reality.
But,
the system or the hierarchy or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Right. And there's always someone bigger than you eventually. Right. So,
yes.
But I mean, that kind of brings us to one of the problems with Elimination Chamber. D.A. Fabe was kind of hitting on it, the fact that there are no Universal or WWE Championship matches on this. But even more than that, there's no Roman Reigns on this at all. Right?
Wow.
He's not on the card at all. Right? So your biggest star, arguably, on SmackDown.
The one you're about to give a giant push to.
Mm-hmm. Not there at all. If Goldberg appears, it's going to be an appearance, not a wrestling match. If Brock appears, it's just going to be an appearance, not a wrestling match. Right? So your two major champions aren't there, effectively. It's like, oh, crap. What do we do with all these other people? Well, we'll give them Elimination Chamber.
Right. And don't you feel like that maybe kind of in some respect might risk making the outcome of those number one contender matches seem like irrelevant? Mm-hmm. Like the champs don't even give a shit?
Yeah.
And well, it's the number one contender match for those right now.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's not even a match for Roman to become the number one contender for Goldberg's title.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I saw a meme on the internet, and it was like, how do you get a shot at the title belt in WWE? And it showed Drew McIntyre and said, beat 30 other people in a Royal Rumble. And then it showed Roman Reigns. Just say, I'm next. Well, someone's working smarter, not harder, it looks like to me.
So it would seem. It shows the favoritism, definitely.
But along the same lines, which is the better storyline from a viewer standpoint? Well, it's definitely Drew McIntyre versus Brock. 100%. Because you've got this buildup of this character coming out, winning the Royal Rumble, being the one who eliminates Brock from the Royal Rumble. All of that stuff builds up. My only worry is last week on Raw, they had Drew McIntyre basically destroy Brock with, I want to say it was 4 Claymores.
Yeah, that was a good start, actually.
It was a good start, but I've always got this theory. I've talked with D.A. Fabe about it before, that the stronger they make a person look going into a pay-per-view, the more likely they are to lose the pay-per-view.
That is true.
And I just worry that they're trying to make, Drew look so fearsome and all of this stuff that they're just going to have Drew just get bulldozed by Brock at WrestleMania, and it's going to be all for nothing.
I was worried about that too, and I thought, is he really that stupid? Is Vince that dumb? But lately, it's not.
I've got 4 words for you: Hell in a Cell.
Exactly.
Yes, Vince is that dumb.
So here's the other aspect to that, and this is a deeper, more foundational thing. I think is, we talk. All of us have had jobs in our life, and all of us have had somebody that was promoted above us that we didn't think should have been, or whatever it may be. This is what's actually happening. It's a bias that the fans actually see, and they go, oh, because his grandpa was an NOI. He's going to be pushed. Well, crap! I'll change my last name to Hanoi, and I have I'm 6'4" and 300 pounds, man. Like, let's do this. I can be a world champion, Vince. That's not so big deal. Or
you need some more tattoos and a little bit darker skin.
All of this can be resolved, though. There's tanning salons and stuff, man. Like, I can pull this off. Or the other aspect of the guy comes in from outside the company and suddenly he's got the push. A former UFC guy. Yeah, granted he was in WWE, but he was only in WWE. He's actually had 5 times as long of a stint in WWE this time as he did the first time. And I think he had more matches in the 2 years he was here the first time than he has been the 10 years he's been here this time. Yeah. You know, like 5 times as long he's been employed by WWE and held them hostage a couple times for his contract. And you know, you've got this thing where, okay, so you're going to give it to him again? Like, promote from within, man. Like, Drew left, honed his craft, came back. It's fantastic as the Scottish Psychopath. You almost missed it once, and you started to regulate him mid-card, and then you saw, oh, no, there's something here, and then you had him win the Royal Rumble, and that's great. Don't piss this away.
Right. I just read something actually really interesting to your point. When they shit-canned him the first time, I just found out Mick Foley called up Hunter and fucking said, look, I know he just left there, but you got to keep an eye on this kid because there's something there. And he's really got my attention, and I think you're missing out, and I think he's going to develop even further into something huge. And here we are. So
think of all the people that they have shit-canned and have hurt that position. I mean, AJ had to go somewhere else to build AJ. AJ has been with WWE before now.
Absolutely.
Ages ago, but he was there. And I understand that there's something to be said for developing under non-WWE developmental. Adam Cole, baby, developed somewhere else, came to NXT. He was already a huge star. Like, that's not a surprise.
Right, and I think that's what all the best people had the luxury of doing, was building themselves up elsewhere.
Yeah, seriously, you look at the top of the card for all WWE products, and it's filled with people who built their careers elsewhere. WWE has this whole homegrown attitude where they're like, our stars are the best, but every single one of them grew their craft elsewhere. Seth Rollins before, when he was wrestling as Tyler Black, AJ off in Impact Wrestling TNA at the time, Samoa Joe in TNA.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bobby Lashley
left and came back. And in his time gone. Seth Rollins, Colby Lang, somewhere else, you know.
Yeah,
it's really an endless list.
Yeah, I mean, you even mentioned Adam Cole, Bebe, you know, and actually the entire Undisputed Era, you know, started off elsewhere and came there. I was watching a TNA Impact Wrestling match from, I want to say it was 2005, right? So 15 years ago, and it had Roderick Strong in it.
Shit.
You know? And he's considered kind of the new guy in Undisputed Era in NXT, and he's a 15-plus year veteran, right?
Right.
Daniel Bryan became the star that he is in WWE because of his reputation from Ring of Honor and the Indies.
Exactly.
And yet Vince still tries to almost ignore it. Like, how hard did Vince try to not have the Daniel Bryan era, the Yes Movement?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, yeah, like, anything Vince didn't create, he buries.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah. With the exception of AJ Styles, for some reason he it's like he didn't forget that he fired AJ at one point. Like he forgot. Like, oh yeah, this guy's pretty good. He's never worked here.
Well, it's because he has long hair now, so he's a totally different person.
Here's my question, actually, pertaining to that. I'm glad you brought that up, because I just recently found out that Taker, it was his idea. He wanted AJ at Mania because he reminds him of Shawn Michaels. Do you think maybe Taker was in Vince's ear from day one and said, you got to do something with this kid?
Could be.
Could be. I mean, it could be. It could even be Triple H. We know for a fact that H is way more cognizant of the indies and wrestling as a whole than Vince McMahon is.
Absolutely.
Vince McMahon almost famously doesn't even actually watch his own product outside of when he's backstage watching it on the monitor, right?
That's a big time fact.
He doesn't watch NXT. You know, when they had that big NXT call up, it was a year ago. He basically just called up and said, "Give me 5 people." You know, these are some people you want, and he said, "You choose. Give me your 5 best." Right. And that's when they brought up Aleister Black, and they tried to bring up Gargano and Ciampa. And, you know, that didn't really work out. But there's so many things. I mean, part of why NXT works so well is it's doing stuff that don't necessarily fly on the main roster. Like, I pray to God that Velveteen Dream doesn't ever get pulled over to Raw or SmackDown. Because as a character, Velveteen Dream does not fly on the main roster. But he works really well in NXT.
Is it just me, or is getting called up to the main roster almost a punishment these days rather than a reward?
It is, and both Gargano and Ciampa, and I believe even Adam Cole, Bay, have said that they don't want to go to the main roster. If they're given the option of staying in NXT, they want to stay in NXT.
Well, I think the writing's on the wall there, too, and I think it makes sense because it's almost a WCW, WWF thing all over again, where the second you get called over, you know, you're buried. So I think your last day on NXT is your funeral, and your first day on the main roster is the burial. You know, yeah. It's where it all starts.
And they could do that. I think WCW, WWE did it better. Here's the deal. WCW, this might have been part of the failure of WCW. Yes, I know Smarts is going to, like, jump through the phone and attack. But part of the failure of that, is, if he hears me out, will be they were bringing in the established stars to make established wrestling storylines that were just edgier. Right. Whereas when WWE did it, let's think of the first person they really brought over, separate from the invasion angle of Benoit and Eddie and all those guys, was Jericho.
Right.
So very, very different than anything we'd seen with Jericho. But it still fit him being the same character. Like, he was still the same dude. He was still the man of 1,004 holds armbar.
Armbar!
That was the funniest shit. I just watched that again recently, and it made me laugh so fucking hard, just like day one. There's like 700 arm bars in there.
Yep.
Left arm bar. Right arm bar.
Jericho is the GOAT. I'm going to say it. I know some other people have, but I'll agree.
Oh, yeah. He's fucking great, man.
But yeah, no, like overall, this Elimination Chamber just seems like, I don't know, it's a filler with a few matches, but I do have some pre-crime predictions for Elimination Chamber. So because we're recording this before Elimination Chamber, but most people won't be able to hear it till afterwards, we'll see if my pre-crime predictions come true or not. But the first one, I think at some point tonight, we will be filing charges against whoever made the Elimination Chamber for gross incompetence after someone breaks through, into, or out of either a pod or the chamber itself.
It's so much a given, really.
Exactly. It happens every time, whether it's Sheamus kicking through, or Braun Strowman kicking through, or Nia Jax spearing someone through into a pod. It seems to happen every time, and
so give me your estimate on how that would happen, because I don't see anybody in the women's, with the exception of Shayna, I don't see anybody in the women's match that really does that. Maybe Shayna's lackeys coming out and helping her finish off that match. But in the tag match, I don't see anybody who just seems like they're going to do. I mean, that's going to be utter chaos anyways. There's 12 dudes in there.
It's going to be utter chaos, but remember the tag match. You've got Heavy Machinery, Otis and Tucker, two big dudes. And you've got Big E, who's also stacked. He gets overlooked for his big dude status, but he is jacked, right? So I fully anticipate it's going to be in that match, most likely. But, you know, in the women's match, I can totally see Liv Morgan or Sarah Logan hiding inside one of the chambers and someone breaking in to get to them.
You see like Ruby trying to attack them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, something I mean, look what Sean did with Taker when he came up from under the grate.
Mm-hmm.
Not hard, right?
Yeah. But that's the deal. I mean, it's just like you guys are paid a lot of money to build this impenetrable structure called the Elimination Chamber, right? Maybe look into why it seems to be so easy for people to break through those doors. Because
all they got to do is hide under the ring beforehand.
Yeah, one job, people.
Let's send a little money to R&D here, see if we can figure out how to make steel cages not break.
I also will likely be filing multiple charges for attempted suicide and attempted murder inside the Elimination Chamber. And I'm looking at John Morrison most particularly.
Of course.
Have a feeling that he's trying to commit suicide.
Kofi there.
And Kofi's there as well. And frankly, I mean, I'm not the biggest Lucha House Party fans, but those people are kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that we're going to see something major from at least one of those.
Did you say those people?
Yeah, those people, because there's multiples of them.
Yeah, I feel there will be like a one-upsmanship kind of thing going on with that kind of insanity.
Oh, yeah. They're definitely... I would love to see a flip-de-doo contest between John Morrison and Kofi in the same ring at the same time, which I think never had.
I think everybody wins on that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then
except being a fat kid sitting back going, I can't do flip-de-doos.
I live vicariously through other people flippy-doing.
I respect the laws of gravity, so I'm just going to stay the fuck out of it.
I'm a law enforcement officer, so, laws of gravity.
See, I know who I'm on the phone with, man. I'm not incriminating myself,
I also predict either AJ or Daniel Bryan will put over their opponents just to raise the status of the opponent. Possibly both, but I think it's definitely going to be either or, and my money's on Daniel Bryan, definitely.
I think so, yeah.
I see him putting Drew Gulak over as a way to raise Drew Gulak, because Drew Gulak is really, really talented, and he's kind of fallen into this no one really takes him seriously role.
Exactly.
And so to have him come out and beat the American Dragon, that's a big deal, so...
And to be fair, I mean, honestly, let's be serious about Aleister Black. Does it really seem like a loss would hurt him?
I don't necessarily know if a loss would hurt him overall, except for the fact that he's just been getting his ass whooped by AJ for the last month and a half. And so having him finally get the comeuppance against AJ could be a big deal. But...
Right. Interesting, though, that is now the second person who you've talked about that to that has said, I don't know that you necessarily have to do that with Aleister Black. Like, I think there's enough fans who are just going to go, I don't think you have to do that with Aleister Black.
Well, but if that's not part of the plan, then why even put him into the feud with AJ in the end? Because AJ is always the heel.
He's a dark character, and we're building AJ versus a dark character.
Who's a part-timer, right?
Yeah, but that guy's part-time, and well, I mean, he doesn't even fly somewhere until...
So that's what I'm saying. I can't guarantee both. I think it's either or, but my money's definitely on Daniel Bryan being one. But it wouldn't surprise me if both of them did it. Because... Now, I'm not necessarily saying that AJ loses 100% cleanly to Aleister. Be Undertaker interference that puts Aleister Black over.
Yeah, that's true.
But
or if AJ does win, it'll be because he had help from his boys, right? So,
but in the end, just generic wrestling 101, you have the face, Aleister Black, face off against the heel, AJ. You have the heel win through nefarious means a bunch of times, and then eventually you have the face prevail, right?
Right.
And because we know fairly certainly that WrestleMania will not be AJ versus Aleister Black, we know that this feud is coming to an end.
True.
This is the time where you let the face prevail.
I agree with that completely.
I mean, unless you're going to have another 364th match against them on Raw tomorrow, and then AJ loses, which wouldn't surprise me, but
that might make more sense too, in the respect of, like, if you don't, then why start a new feud between AJ and anybody if Mania is not too far away, but you still have a bit of a gap, right? So it's like he's already preoccupied.
Yeah. So, and then my final prediction really for it is, because this is WWE, the winner of at least one match will have most of us saying, "What the fuck?"
Well, yeah, that's a given.
It's gonna be one of the matches is gonna be a Hell in a Cell moment again for us. And my money's on the Street Profits versus Rollins and Murphy.
Yeah, I feel like the rematch is going to be another title switch, and change hands yet again. I feel like they were just trying to do due diligence by giving it to them.
Yeah.
So you think that's going to turn into Rubber Mania for them, where there's a rubber match at WrestleMania for them?
Oh, man. Yeah, I honestly think, that's what I wanted to get into, was the track record, where I think the company and the accusation of racism is starting to get, like, they're not even trying to cover it anymore.
Yeah.
We were talking before off air about the whole thing that they did where there's a new rule now and no champions get an automatic rematch once they lose their championship. And then it seemed like every single person that lost their championship, there was some excuse why they got the rematch. Some fucking bullshit fabrication that was so see-through and transparent, like you just saw it coming. And then, of course, just in time, Kofi loses his championship, and he's the one guy that just gets the fuck over it and accepts it like, well, it was fun while it lasted. At least I can say. He treats it like skydiving. I did it once, so I can say I've done it. I don't need to do it again. It's like, what the fuck?
I mean, that's really part of the insult of it, is they made it seem like he didn't even care that he'd lost the belt.
Yeah. Comes back happy as shit, doesn't even address that, even pissed off or anything. And just his happy-go-lucky fucking self. Like, hey, man, you win some, you lose some. Let's move forward. And that's fine if that's like the European Championship or some U.S. title or whatever the fuck. But this is the biggest championship.
Yeah.
Well, I saw a statistic the other day, just kind of speaking racism, and I don't know the exact numbers for it, but on the WWE main roster shows, so Raw and SmackDown, not counting NXT, I think they said people of color went like 1 out of 12 matches all month on televised TV,
Wow.
up until right at the end where the Street Profits miraculously won the tag championships. And that's during Black History Month, right? Just like, seriously, if you want to celebrate Black history, then I don't know, maybe you have some black people win the belts or win matches just in general.
Look at last time, Black History Month, what happened to poor Titus O'Neil?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck was that about? The funniest comment, I hate racism, man, but the funniest comment, even Cornette fucking touched on this because he thought it was hilarious. Somebody said, for Black History Month, Vince McMahon made a black man history. Fucking suspended him.
Yeah.
For nothing. Like, come on, man.
Well, here's we Smarks and I had actually talked a little bit about JBL being inducted. So JBL is widely known as the backstage bully. I mean, and we had an episode recently that I said, what a great heel commentator, bring a heel commentator back. He is a fantastic heel commentator. That's mostly because he's a jackass in real life. Like, he's a fucking prick.
He's just being himself.
So if you want to pick up a great heel commentator, you got to find a guy who's a fucking prick, and he's it. Well, then he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame right now, and you have Ron Simmons in as the first black world champion, which happened in WCW. I think just sitting down and thinking about what the Hall of Fame means, sitting down and thinking about the heat they took for Hogan, after Hogan made the racial remarks and all that stuff. I think, God, what a great opportunity. You have as many two-time Hall of Famers or more that are black as a greater percentage that are black than are white, that are two-timers. If you just induct the acolytes, which gets JBL in, you still end up doing what you wanted to do, but you don't induct a prick, you induct an epic tag team. You know what I'm saying?
Like, absolutely.
Like, and he only had one world championship run, and it was a good run. I mean, the guy's a great heel because he is actually, he's MJF, and I don't know how much AEW you watch, but he's MJF. Yeah. Like, he's just, you're naturally a prick, so be yourself.
And it's so true.
You know, so I just think if you wanted to dodge some of this, hey, you guys, you're really showing your racism. Man, what a fucking perfect opportunity to do that. Like, hey, we're going to induct the acolytes. See how not racist we are? Ron Simmons is in twice again. And granted, I mean, racism is a deep running thing for individuals that have it. But at the end of the day, like, you've taken heat for this for fucking years, man.
Right. And making no effort whatsoever to put a stop to the claims.
Oh, look, we put Kofi in.
But, yeah, that should get us goodwill for the next 2 years, right?
Right. And here's the thing, right, that really blows my mind when it comes to Kofi. Vince's excuse was he wasn't drawing money as the champ.
What the fuck do you mean he wasn't drawing money as the champ? I have a podcast, and I'm less excited to watch this pay-per-view than I was to watch Kofi in anything Kofi did in his matches.
Right.
Kofi versus Randy Orton, I was itching.
Right.
Every day I'd call Smarks, and I'd be like, I can't fucking wait to see this. I can't wait for Kofi to look at Randy Orton in the ring and go, stupid.
Right. But here's the thing, too. Like, back when that feud first started, when Kofi was finally getting that push, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, he was amazing. He was really showing what he's got. And I knew one day he was going to and I thought it was a lot sooner rather than later, he was actually going to make it. But here's my thing with Vince saying that shit, is it seems like such a fucking safe space to run to. Because as a fan, you're not exactly their accountant. You can't really confirm if motherfuckers are bringing money in or not, in his view anyway. So it just seems like, there's no argument, even though you've called bullshit.
Or guess what? Maybe the reason your revenues are down is because aside from Kofi, you've been putting a shit product out.
Well, that's just it. Why don't you care about what's not bringing in money then in every other respect besides a black champion?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the deal. He's already proven that he'll do anything to bring in money. He'll pigeonhole a fucking pay-per-view in, ruining the pay-per-views around it just to be able to get what he's looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Before I wrap this up, I want to take a pause for the cause and give a little review for a sponsor and pay some bills that has been a real lifesaver for me, man. All right, a lot of you beautiful Tattness podcast listeners have been asking me a lot of questions lately about my newest sponsor. I've been praising them very highly, and you guys have a lot of questions, so I'm about to answer them with a review and tell you why you need to try Sports Suds. I hear a lot of concerns from people that had a few questions, wondering, is it just good for athletes? Because I don't spend the 4 hours a day in the gym like you do, Tattness. I don't need all that fancy stuff. And I understand that. I do. Not everybody spends 4 hours a day in the gym, but here's what you need to realize. Everybody's celebrating. Summer's not too far away. It's around the corner now, but guess what happens? Come summer, athlete or not, you sweat. We all do. And your clothing kind of soaks in all that sweat, and then comes the bacteria. Well, there's a lot of detergents out there that will mask all of that. They'll mask the smell, and you think it's done its job. But is it doing anything to kill the bacteria? No. The smell is still there. Eventually it kind of comes through, and then you just smell a lot of perfume smell and the gross gym smell or sweat smell that you may be experiencing that we all go through every summer. Now, Sports Suds takes care of that. It kills the bacteria that creates the smell, And it doesn't bother with all these fancy perfumes to make you smell like a meadow. It actually just cancels out all odors. It takes away the bacteria that creates the foul smell. Sport Suds isn't trying to reinvent the wheel here. This is the beauty of it. They realize less is more. I know we've all heard that expression, less is more, and it's true. Sometimes the best way to smell good is just don't smell bad. You don't need to mask it with all this perfume and smell like an ocean. Who needs that? That can take people's breath away because, let's face it, we're living in a time where there's a lot of allergies and sensitivities to perfumes, and there's a lot of perfume-free areas in the workplace now these days. So, Sport Suds takes care of that. They don't worry about masking odors with all these fancy chemical perfumes. They just take away the bacteria, kill the bacteria that's creating the foul smell, while also removing anything that your old failed detergent left behind. No more white spots where the detergent left its powdery mark. No more scented smell that takes people's breath away and is overpowering. No more germs, no more sweat smell, no more mildew smell from hanging laundry that didn't quite dry properly. And for those that are concerned, I mean, we live in 2020. I understand there's a lot of ethical movements now, and you're worried about animals and the environment, as we all should. Well, you'll be happy to know you could use Sport Suds without compromising your values. You don't have to worry because they are not animal tested at all, and all of their ingredients are sustainably sourced and eco-friendly, and even work with your high-efficiency washers without any problems. So you can hold on to your values without feeling guilty and do your laundry without feeling like you just went against your values. It's amazing stuff. So now let's talk about the question on everyone's mind. Let's talk price. Let me tell you, for the cost of a tub of Sport Suds, it's the same as the cost of my workout gloves that I bought. But now, thanks to Sport Suds, I don't have to throw those gloves out every month and buy new ones because of odor overload. I no longer have to replace those gloves once a month for the same price. Instead, I buy a big tub of Sport Suds and it washes all my gym gear, so I don't have to throw anything out anymore. It's cost effective. It's been a lifesaver. It's been easy on the wallet, and I tell you right now, it gets the job done. All you loyal listeners know that Old Tattness here will never, ever sponsor anything, or be sponsored by anything, endorse anything that I myself would not use. And I'm telling you right now, man, both Sport Suds and myself are so confident that you are going to love their product that they've been gracious enough to offer all my listeners a discount site-wide if you go onto their website and use the promo code Tattness when you buy anything. That's how confident we both are that you're going to love this product. You're going to save 25% just by telling them that Old Tattness sent you. Use promo code Tattness and you get 25% off of any order site-wide. How generous is that? As you guys know, I'm not just an athlete now. I'm the owner of a clothing company, so I know the importance of what you wash those clothes in is just as important as what you wear. What you wash those clothes in is equally important. So, I'm telling you right now, I give this product 5 stars because Old Tattness would never steer you wrong. This stuff is a game changer. It's going to change the way you do laundry. So I say, if you want to find out for yourself, go to their website, go to Sport Suds website, and tell them Old Tattness sent you. Collect your 25% off. And find out for yourself. You will not be disappointed because we would not steer you in the wrong direction. This stuff is amazing. And I assure you that this will change the way you think about your clothing. You're no longer going to have to throw out your favorite shirts due to smell that just won't come out, or a buildup of chemical perfumes that built themselves right into the fabric of your shirts. None of that. This takes care of all those issues. Do yourself a favor and take advantage of this promo code sale and find out for yourself how great this stuff is. Because summer's coming, you're going to sweat, and you don't want to be throwing out your favorite clothing because the smell just won't go away. So let's kill some bacteria, scent-free, and try it out for yourself. So get Sport Suds and get the funk out. Alright, we're going to wrap this bad boy up and continue with part 2 with the guys from Raw and Order talking about the pay-per-view that WWE put on, the Elimination Chamber. And so the next show will be part 2, a continuation of that conversation. And I highly recommend you guys check out their show, because this is what they do. They're so creative that they don't just review wrestling events. They actually call them out on all their crimes against the sport, if you will. And I think that's very creative. I think that's unique to most shows that talk about pro wrestling. These guys really got their stuff down in a unique way that has substance, in my view. And I think you guys really dig it, man. So be sure to check them out. And the next show will be part 2 of that conversation. Don't miss that. And see if we nailed any of these predictions that we had for this event. I think we kind of were surprised a little bit with the outcome of the event, because we made some predictions that, let's be honest, fell flat on their face, and I'm surprised. I'm sure they are just as well. So be sure to check out the Tattness Co network, where you could find these guys and many other shows that we've recently picked up that are great shows for all types of listeners, whatever you're into, man. But check these guys out if you like pro wrestling, especially. You might agree with a lot that they have to say about the flaws and the crimes against the sport, or the sports entertainment, if you will. And you might agree with a lot that they have to say. So I'm going to wrap this up. I had so much editing to do to kind of cut to the meat of our conversation. It's been exhausting, and this was a while back. This was the day of the pay-per-view, and I wanted to get this out a lot sooner, but there was just so much content that I didn't want to cut anything out. And these guys are so great that I didn't want to cut them short. So I figured, why not make it a 2-part special? You know what I'm saying? And give you guys the full conversation that we had for the most part. A little bit of it might be cut out that you can check out on their show. And that was a segment we specifically did for their show. So I kind of had a guest spot there, in a sense. And it's been a blast. And I hope to have them on the show again, or maybe jump on their show. And if that does happen in the near future, I'll be advertising, so you will know, trust me. But I highly recommend them, man. They're great guys. Awesome conversation. Really had a blast talking to them. And I think part 2 shows that. So we'll get to that this week, and I'll release part 2 of the conversation. And you can give some feedback on the pay-per-view yourself if you like. If you watched it, if you're a fan of pro wrestling, then this show will definitely interest you, because these guys really know their stuff. They really get into it, and we really cut into the meat of it all. So check it out, and part 2 is on the way. Have a good one, man. Take care, you guys, and thanks again for listening. I'll catch your asses later.
Smallness, a destruction of the fear in us. I have yet to know.